Hi friends, Principal Rabb-Patterson here today on this Thursday, September 3rd, 2020. And today for Writing Chance, we're going to read Chapter 2 to find out what is going on with Mr. Troy. So here we go. Writing Chance by Christine Kendall, Chapter 2. Growing up in Philly, I'd been used to going to Fairmount Park. We did all kinds of stuff, like barbecues in the summer, haunted house tours at Halloween. Me and Foster used to ride our bikes in the park too, popping wheelies and looking at girls. Some days when I didn't go to school, I'd take real long walks in the park. It's beautiful no matter what season it is. What I liked the most is that I could be alone there, especially when it was cold and there weren't any leaves on the trees. Maybe I needed that because I felt exposed like the bare tree branches. Even under my winter coat and hat and gloves. It seemed like I walked all over the park that winter. But the park's so big, I guess you can never get to know all of it. Now it was spring and these horse people took us to a place we'd never been before. Everything was green and the leaves were budding on all the tall trees all around the stables. There was a red barn and it sat real low, almost in the ground, slurping up mud on its sides. Mostly brick, but there was wood mixed in too. The doors moved back and forth on an old pulley thing instead of opening in and out. And the windows were weird. They struck out from the bottom like they were broken, but that's the way you open them. Horses were standing around outside, stamping their feet, swishing their tails. I guess that's how you keep the bugs away. There were lots of flies, and usually I can't stand that. But I wasn't feeling no irritation just then. Man, it was the horses. They were so big and shiny. You could see all their muscles, and they weren't even flexing or nothing. I'd seen cops riding them during parades and stuff, but I never thought I'd be trying to ride one. The barn was surrounded by fields closed by gates, so you had to walk on these paths in between the fields to get around the whole place. And there were horses behind all the gates, eating hay, running around, or just nipping at each other. Looked like the kids over on the side of the barn knew what they were doing, riding horses like they were in the movies. Some of them were smacking a ball around with a long stick. Now that was something. They were hitting the ball all the way down on the ground while they were up on the horses. This one dude had on a black jersey with the number 3 real big on it. Looked like he was telling all the other kids what to do. "This is it." Dre, the brother who drove us over, was smiling all over his face. I never saw nobody looking as happy as he did. He's straight up corny. Dre was one of the people who'd come to the house talking about how much kids can learn from horses. Said animals can teach you things like responsibility and caring. Said taking care of horses is hard, but you can learn a lot of stuff and maybe get motivated to think about going to college and all like that. Dre talked about polo the whole time he was driving us over. And even after we got there, he just kept on about how it was such a beautiful sport. Said it used to be in the Olympics, but not anymore. The smell was the first thing that got on my nerves. It was sickening sweet. Not really bad, but definitely not good. I pulled my shirt up over my nose like that was gonna help. Foster took off his hoodie, wrapped it around the bottom of his face, and tied the arms in the back. He's so skinny, he looked like a string bean bandit or something. "Troy, man, this where we gonna be?" His voice was muffled under his hood. I draped my arm over his shoulders. "This place has your name on it, son." Real quick, I undid his hoodie and tied his arms behind his back. I knotted it tight and pushed him toward the horses. "Don't try it, man." "Who's gonna stop me?" I've always been stronger than him, and he knew it. "My posse's saddling up now." "It'll be sundown before they get here," I said, pushing as hard as I could. Me and him were both laughing. I had him up to the fence, real close to this dark brown horse's butt. Foster's arms were tied up, but he dug in his heels. "Hey, you two, cut it out!" Dre frowned at us. "Don't mess with the horses like that." "We're just taking a look," I said. I was busy trying to stick Foster's head between the fence rails when I saw the horse looking at me. Dang, is this thing cross-eyed or what? I jumped back because the biggest eyeball in the world was looking at me. It had long eyelashes and there was only one. "I don't know, man. I think the other eye is all the way over on the other side of his head." Foster backed away from the fence too. "That's not very smart." A girl's voice came from behind us. "You're in the horse's blind spot. You could get kicked." I started to tell whoever it was to mind her business, but when I turned around and looked at her, the wind was sucked right out of me. "Oh, newbies," she said, laughing. "You can always tell by the clothes on the nose." Standing in front of us was the hottest honey in the planet. Big brown eyes. That horse didn't have nothing on her in the eyelash department. She could have gone toe-to-toe with the horse in the skin department, too. Chocolate brown and fine. She walked on by her high rubber boots and left me and my boy standing there looking stupid. "Did you see that?" said Foster as I untied him. "We definitely need to check this out." Nobody told us we couldn't, so we slid into the barn. First of all, there was no sunshine. We were in a long hall broken up into these little rooms with a string of light bulbs running down the center. Stacks of hay were everywhere with all kinds of writing stuff hanging on hooks. "It ain't exactly dark and lovely in here," I said. "Quit worrying about that girl, man. We're checking out our new offices." My boy was right, but I didn't like the smell. All the horses were outside, but that didn't mean there weren't animals up in here. I saw at least 2 dogs and a whole lot of cats laying around. Something swayed in the back of one of the stalls, something with horns and looked like a little goatee. "Yo, man, what is that?" I asked. "Looks like the new assistant principal, Mr. Paul." That's cold, but true. Foster was right. Our school had problems. Mr. Paul was one of them. He'd throw you in detention for the least little thing. We were checking the joint out when we heard something like thunder going by. Took me a minute to realize that that was the sound of horses running around outside, right on the other side of the wall. Then Dre came trooping into the barn with the 2 other new kids and this tall dude. Brother had on white, looked like stretch pants tucked into these brown leather boots. He had pads on his knees and a jersey that I could tell cost a lot of money. To top it all off, he had brown leather gloves that matched his boots. "I was wondering what happened to you," said Dre. "Oh, I see you've met our mascot, Percy. Now we know his name," I said, rubbing my chin. "But what is he?" I looked around at the other kids to see if they had my back. "A goat." Dre's eyes narrowed. "What did you think?" "I really didn't know," he laughed. "Percy brings us good luck." "Aren't we here to learn about horses?" this chunky dude asked. He looked like he really didn't want to be there. "My question is, are we going to have to take care of this goat too?" said Foster. "Because I'm going to need a raise if we are." We bumped fists on that one. "Get over it." That's what he said, the tall dude. He said it without cracking a smile. Nobody knew what to say for a minute, but then Dre jumped back in. "All right, everybody listen up." He put his hands on his hips. "I'm Dre, as you already know." He took a little bow, and we all clapped. "I'm the barn manager. I'm pretty much here all the time." "That must be a drag on Saturday nights," said the chunky guy. "Ready for house rules?" The girl in our little group said no, but Dre went on anyways. "Here we go. Number 1, you check in with Winston, your program director, when you arrive and before you leave." He nodded at the tall dude. "We have to know where you are at all times." 2, you're here to work and take care of the horses. If you're good at that, then you can ride. "Can't we ride first to see if we like it?" Foster asked. Dre kept going. "No excuses, no exceptions." 3, beginners start by mucking out stalls. I didn't know what that was, but I didn't like the sound of it. "That's cleaning up after the horses, and, as Winston just said, you clean up after Percy too. 4, you go to school and don't start any trouble." He didn't say nothing about trouble finding us. That was more likely. "What do you get for all this hard work?" he asked. "We ain't getting paid, that much I know," Foster said. What everybody was thinking. "You can't put a price on what you're getting." Dre flashed a smile. "You get to ride. You'll get to learn as much about horses as you want, and if you're really good, you can play polo." Foster raised his hand. Dre nodded at him. "Do you think I'll be playing polo before I get my driver's license?" All kids cracked up, Dre too. "That all depends on you," he said. "Depends on how hard you work and if Winston thinks you're ready." Dre told it straight. "Some kids are riding right away. Others never make it to the saddle. If you're interested in polo, you can try out next spring." That seemed like a long time away, but none of us had ever been on a horse before. "Okay," said Dre. "This is where I exit and leave you in Winston's hands." I did a quick look around. Nobody wanted him to leave us with Winston. Dre wasn't bad. Winston was another story. And that was Chapter 2 of Writing Chance. I look forward to reading Chapter 3 with you tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye-bye.